Back home down under. The qualifying race, there wasn't much to speak about. There was a bit of a tete-a-tete between Curtis Darcy and James West. And Mark Sears, a local driver, crashed out, and Battaglia, of course, his car grenaded, and that was really the only thing to speak of in the qualifying race, other than that I won it. That's really about it. The silly season details are beginning to form up. Alexis Rainsford looks like she's going to be back at the Volpe Racing Team. Well, it will be called that next year. And Danny Sullivan was, of course, confirmed as the third driver for the Hodges-Walter team, which means that Scott Stoidler and Mike Whitmore are both out next year. And I've heard some rumors that there's a reason that Stoidler is not going to be back at that team, and that's because he's got a better ride waiting for him. I don't know where. I'm not sure if it's one of the Sauer cars, or if it's one of the Tramwell cars, or even one of the McAllister Gasniers, which reportedly are very good, or will be. Other than that, we'll be hearing more about the silly season in the upcoming weeks, and we expect for most of the 2010 grid to be decided by about round 15 or 16 of the championship. We also hear that Katsev will be making their launch soon, which that's of course a de facto Team Russia. We believe Nosova will be driving for them, but other than that, can't really confirm anything but that. Alright, Dan, off to you. Thank you, Lance. The Clutch Pole Award went to Brian Sendak in the number 40 Red Bull STS. Sendak was very quick in practice, and here you see off the line Brian Sendak and Danny Savin coming into the first of the left-right bends. A lot of tricky S's. You see George Dennis in the 21 car making his way up to second. Savin goes down to third. There's Andrews back there in that yellow and green car. Danny Savin losing ground quickly on the first lap. See, some of the camera angles here are a little weird. He has trouble on the first lap, though, which seems to be a bit of a recurring theme with road racing here. Chris Johans has already hit one of the walls, and he puts Ross Peterson to another wall. Peterson hits Adam Purcell. That's not all. He then goes wide, gets 3 wide with Ian Cooper and Arto Kekkonen, who goes barrel rolling down part of the track. Gave those spectators there a really big scare. There's Johans putting the 47 in the wall, clips Purcell, who is subbing for Leon Kennison. Of course, Adam Purcell, a local driver. And then over goes Arto Kekkonen in car number 14. A massive roll for the young Finn and winner of the Karjala Grand Prix this year. Adam Purcell, local driver from Australia, one of the crowd favorites. He gets hit on the first lap. Is going to make his day from bad to worse. Gets another local driver, the 58 car of Jason Campbell. And that car number 92, Thomas Duke, is a New Zealander. We're on board with Jason Campbell, of course, local V8 driver here. There's trouble. There's Purcell, and Lewis Kingston gets involved in car number 84. So, the day has already not gone too well for some drivers in the field. We're on board with Ian Cooper in car number 2. He's going to go out as a result of this. Now watch, he's going to get caught with Kekkonen and Johans. He gets sent into the wall. Chris Johans and Arto Kekkonen both in the top 10 in the standings coming into this race. Joseph Howard gets put in the wall there by Thomas Duke as everything just stacks up. And Kekkonen, of course, goes out. Howard goes out. Cooper goes out. And Johans also to the garage. Brian Sendak, after the first lap, pulling out a bit of a lead over George Dennis. Sendak, not too many people expect he'll have a full-time ride because of his inconsistent performances. Here's Lance Andrews sitting in the 4th position in car number 44. There you see that someone getting on George Dennis getting on the rumble strips over there. Well, it's not really rumble strips, more like concrete, but the concrete not proved to be very grippy, and so a lot of people have lost time there. Andrews is currently running 3rd now in the Inglesby Australia car. Alexis Rainsford in the first laps had a very quick lap and was actually the fastest car on the first lap. She's been very quick on road courses in general. Some people said Alexis Rainsford was going to Formula A, and there was some truth to those rumors. However, Rainsford has said that she most likely will not be going there. Here's Leonid Roderick in car number 4. He encounters trouble very early on when his car randomly stalls out, which is a problem that happened to Shinji Tanaka in the Karjala Grand Prix last season. Of course, the Inglesbys have had a slight fuel pump issue before. Colin Evans in car number 30 blows up on lap 5, so not a very good day for Colin, who qualified pretty well. Back up with Lance Andrews, you see Danny Savin directly in front of him. Andrews having a pretty good run so far. A lot of people have said this could be the race that he finally wins after 21 years of trying. Lance Andrews has never won a Master Cup Series race. Another one of the one-off drivers that most people overlooked, Packer Carroll in this 48 car. It's kind of hard to tell what number it is because the numbers are the same color as the base color of the car. Packer Carroll, very highly rated Arla driver, and he wasn't doing too well though. He was running towards the back. Alexis Rainsford, on the other hand, was setting laps about 2 seconds quicker than the rest of the field. No one was really sure how she was able to do this, considering that even her own teammates, Zach Duff and Julian Asova, were doing about the same time. Some people think Rainsford just braking a little bit later than everyone else. Danny Savin in the 91 has a run on Brian Sendak here, but Sendak throws some blocks and some pretty cool moves that keep Savin behind him. Savin in car 91 is going to lose a little bit of ground, but he's not giving up though. Savin having a go, try to get the lead. You see Kurt Pliskin back there in 4th and Julian Asova in 5th. Savin gets, however, a good run on the inside of Brian Sendak. Sendak hits the curbs, and he's not going to be able to do it this time. Danny Savin, the rock star, he is going to Hodges Walter Racing next year. He was the first car into the pit lane, getting tired of being behind Sendak. Sendak followed him a lap later on lap 10, and everyone else went with Sendak. Alexis Rainsford, you see there, has already moved up to 10th after qualifying mid-pack. Scott Stoidler in car number 26, after realizing he was going to be without a ride, apparently decided to put on his best performance of the season. He was actually on Alexis Rainsford's pace, the 26 and 27 cars being the only cars to run laps in the 58-second bracket. Here is Brian Sendak in car number 40. He came out of the pits as the leader. Danny Savin in 2nd, Alexis Rainsford in 3rd, Drew Eisenman in 4th, Scott Stoidler in 5th. However, this led to problems on lap 16 when everything was cycling out. Danny Savin in the 91, Alexis Rainsford in the 27. Rainsford makes a move, gets around Danny Savin. Coming through here, Rainsford uses the extra momentum on the outside. Savin gets his car stuck on the concrete, and then Drew Eisenman runs over him and spins both cars out. This was a battle for 3rd, actually, so Eisenman not doing himself any favors here. Savin going a little bit slower, tries to block Eisenman, who was coming on strong. Kind of a racing deal because that is a bit of a blind corner, and Eisenman wasn't really prepared for it. And Savin apparently had no idea he was coming. Here's Adam Purcell trying to avoid it, but he goes too wide and takes himself into the tires. Adam Purcell, local Aussie, not doing himself any favors. He would actually go out of the race. There was too much damage to car number 3. Leon Kennison, the regular driver, has cracked the ribs. Here's the running order. Sendak in the lead, Rainsford 2nd, Scott Stoidler a brilliant 3rd, Lance Andrews 4th, Kurt Pliskin, another great drive from him in 5th, Duff is currently sitting in 6th. Then Damian Snyder, Drew Eisenman, Julian Asova, Tony Durbin, and Gary Edwards. Here is Durbin, and right behind him, Edwards. We believe there's a big announcement concerning Durbin and Edwards coming this week. Tony Durbin in car 33 having a very strong run. Alan Hodges came in as the points leader ahead of Tony Durbin, and he wasn't doing himself any favors by qualifying last. However, Alan Hodges by this point had worked himself up to 30th, and the 13 car was beginning to march forward. Brian Sendak in car 40 is going to have some problems, notably Alexis Rainsford. The lady in red makes a good move around the outside. That seems to be the best place to pass, is not in the inside, but just use the extra momentum the outside lane gives you, and put Sendak in between herself and Scott Stoidler, which were the fastest 2 cars on the track. However, Sendak would have to give up 2nd to Stoidler. Lance Andrews currently was way behind the rest of these cars in 3rd. Here's Alexis Rainsford trying to negotiate lap traffic, meeting Thomas Duke, a New Zealander. He's currently running in the TM Light Series and doing fairly well. He made his debut for this same team last year. Of course, this is a teammate to Danny Savin and Milano Rossini, the Blitzkrieg Racing team. So Duke made his debut when Savin got suspended for his attitude. Here's a guy I don't think I ever thought he'd be lapped, Leonard Roderick in the 4, but you see he's a very gracious backmarker once he sees Alexis Rainsford. Moves over, lets her by. And right in front of Rainsford, you see is Stuart Sandoval, who's had some contact with the wall all by himself just a lap before. Here is trouble between Zach Duff and Drew Eisenman. Almost trouble, I should say, because they almost turned each other into the fence. Eisenman being very aggressive early on, and he's going to need it because it's not sure whether or not he will be at SAR or Tremwell, but apparently he has been told he'll be with one of those 2 teams. More problems with apparently fuel pumps, and that's with Marcus Leonard, another Inglesby. The Inglesby cars have had some fuel pickup problems before. I mentioned Shinji Tanaka last year at the Carlisle Grand Prix. He randomly stalled his car out and was promptly spun out. Scott Stoidler, car 26, is beginning to lose ground to Alexis Rainsford, and the 27 car Rainsford way ahead of Stoidler at this point. More trouble on lap number 30 of 53 scheduled. This is for position. Zach Duff and the car number 11 of Damian Snyder doing battle here. Snyder dives into the pits, and Duff apparently forgot to dive in with Snyder and took himself into the wall. Kind of hard to explain this one here. Here's Duff's car, smoking, taking it back around to retire it, and he hits a tire wall sitting there, and Chris Allen gets into him. You see a couple other cars making contact with the 28 car. However, Chris Allen began to make a nuisance of himself at this point, beginning his trail of wreckage. He almost takes out Brian Sendak, who's currently running third. And then Rachel Rainsford just runs into the back of him after Allen just appears to get in Rainsford's way. Here comes Lance Andrews in the 44 car right by him. Here comes the rest of the field. He almost pulls into Kurt Pliskin's car. And here comes Marcus Leonard, who... Leonard does not want to have to deal with Allen. Leonard just dumps him into the grass. Marcus Leonard showing a great deal of impatience and probably not doing anyone else any favors, namely Alexis Rainsford, because Allen almost takes the leader out as Gary Edwards takes himself into the pit wall. That's going to end Edwards' day. You see Allen holding up the leaders. He's held up Rainsford and Mike Whitmore. That's not all. We're not done with it yet. He hits the wall, takes Drew Eisenman into the wall as well. So Allen's behavior really just lost for words is what I can best say. However, he finally ends it by taking himself into the wall and making Brian Sendak spin wide into the sand. And he holds up Scott Stoidler and Lance Andrews as well. Of course, this is a battle for position between Stoidler and Andrews. You're going to see Stoidler going by. More back markers getting in the way. Damian Snyder gets tired of Thomas Duke holding him up, spins him into the wall. Duke gets his revenge by taking Snyder into the wall and out of the race. The officials want to talk to Thomas Duke, especially after he takes David Krikorian in car number 9. Massive hit for the Californian. There's trouble ahead. Oh, look out! Oh, that's going to end DK's day, and he was having a pretty good run, too. Running about mid-pack. And DK's weaknesses have been these road courses, so it was a good day for him. He's not going to be too happy about that. It's rare that we get to see this 18 car on the grid, but Pete Maverick having a pretty strong run there. You see Damian Snyder just pedaling around there. Whenever we see Pete Maverick on the track, he usually doesn't qualify. However, when he makes the races, he usually does very well. And this appears to be the case here today. Hopefully we'll be able to see Maverick in something like the Junior Series because he's showing that he is a good driver on his day. Danny Savin in the 91 car lets Cyrus Laterza go through and then gets hit by Ryan Naraki and rolls the car. Snyder was a lap down. Laterza was running 11th. Here's Damian Snyder being a bit too gracious and gets pinched by Anthony Evans into the tires, though admittedly he didn't really have much more space to go. And Packer Carroll gets a piece of that. That's going to end Packer Carroll's day. Damian Snyder, of course, he's been in some trouble already. Meanwhile, back at the business end of the field, where finally we're back here, Scott Stoidler and Alexis Rainsford have to deal with some lap cars, including Brian Sendak after spinning off the track. There is Laterza on the 74. He almost runs Rainsford into the wall. Rainsford tries to return the favor, but Laterza just scoots off into the distance. Pretty good run for Laterza, but he's not making friends out there. Scott Stoidler caught up to Rainsford's bumper while these lap cars were basically holding her up. And Rainsford none too happy about them, and Stoidler probably very happy with them because this is probably the best run of his career so far. Here he's going to have a look to the inside of Alexis Rainsford, and is he going to make the pass coming in? Gets around Laterza, and he actually completes the pass. Takes him a while to do that, though, because Rainsford is fighting back. The 27 car fights back. Laterza in the 74 getting in the way. Rainsford roughing up Stoidler a little bit, however, runs a little wide there, and that's going to give Stoidler a better run into the next corner, which is going to give him the outside lane, which is going to be a lot more momentum than the inside lane here. Normally it's the other way around, and gives Stoidler the lead of the race. Now here's Cyrus Laterza, who's done a fantastic job of getting in the way, and not much else this season. We haven't seen Cyrus on the track much. Oh yeah, I should mention, this is on lap 41 to 53, and he's running 11th. Stoidler pulls away from Rainsford with the help of a couple other lap cars. Leonid Roderick is there, but Rainsford not able to pass Roderick as of yet. Here's Alan Hodges, who's fought himself from last all the way up to 9th, and here's Stoidler about to put his team boss a lap down. Hodges, a team player, though, doesn't really hold Stoidler up that much and lets him go. So Hodges still showing that he is loyal to Stoidler regardless. More trouble on lap 46 of 53. This involves Jason Campbell in the 58 car, who's had a pretty bad run so far by his standards. He's a V8 champion here in Australia, but he gets dumped by Dale Roswell into the wall, ending his day. Campbell hoping to run more of these races. Here's Zelda Ashby having a very quiet run, who's marched all the way up through the field, up to 6th. So Ashby having a very strong run on a weekend where she's not seemed to excel. Lewis Kingston, her teammate, also having a pretty strong run. He's currently running 11th. I said Laterza was earlier. Kingston's already gone by him. And then 5 laps from the end of the race, the car blows an engine. Engine on the 84 car goes after a very solid run from Lewis, who, again, like David Krikorian, has had problems on these road circuits. However, up front, Rainsford was not able to catch Scott Stoidler, and Stoidler would finally take his first ever TM Master Cup Series victory, celebrated appropriately with burnouts, and did he just put it in the wall? I think he did. Stoidler, after celebrating, puts the car on the wall 2 seconds up the road from Alexis Rainsford, and get this, Kurt Pliskin, who finishes 3rd, fantastic run for him, by the way, 45 seconds back on the leader, with a racetrack that's about a 59-second lap. Tony Durbin in 4th, Pete Maverick 5th, so both the Power Steering Incorporated cars in the top 10. They appear to have a very good setup overall, but just not enough today. Zelda Ashby 6th, Julian Asova, last car in the lead lap, in 7th, Mike Whitmore 8th. You saw him in the background of the last shot, right in front of Rainsford. Anthony Evans in 9th, and then Scott Bates rounds out the top 10. I should also mention that Evans and Bates are going to be teammates next year, and it'll be interesting to see what they can do together. And here are the top 10 in the point standings. Alan Hodges holds the points lead by 1 over Tony Durbin. Alexis Rainsford sits 3rd, Leonid Roderick in 4th. Arto Kekkonen, despite crashing out, is in 5th. Scott Stoidler sits 6th. Dale Roswell in 7th. Damian Snyder in 8th, and Rachel Rainsford sits 9th. Kurt Pliskin is tied for 10th with Gary Edwards, who's listed 11th. Stephen McGlynn 12th. Mike Whitmore in 13th. Lewis Kingston in 14th. Chris Johans 15th. Ross Peterson sits in 16th place. Scott Bates in 17th. Stuart Sandoval 18th. The Russian Julian Asova in 19th. And then Danny Savin moves up into 20th. That's all for this week in the TM Master Cup Series. I'll see you next time.